Tom Quee and Sam Wiles present Down in the Hole, a Tom Waits podcast which explores and critiques, episode by episode, every album of the American artist. To find out more information about the show and the man himself, visit TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com.
Hello, and welcome to Down in the Hole, the world's first Tom Waits podcast, where we are so far in now, we're just about to do Blood Money today. You know, this is the start, the official start of the end, really. We are coming to the latter phase of Tom's work, and this is where he will start to get weird. But I'm not alone. I am reviewing, as ever, with my good friend and long Tom Waits fan. It is, of course, Mr. Tom Quee. How are you?
I am very long, so I appreciate that. I'm good, man. I'm good. I am incredibly excited to get started on Blood Money, which I must say, I mean, I don't know about you, but in a sort of kind of Scylla and Charybdis kind of mythological battle, fire and water, you know, earth and wind, there is Alice and Blood Money. They are irrevocably together, aren't they? Even though they aren't like, it's not like Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, the Guns N' Roses double release, which, again, whilst they maybe weren't thematically that consistent, they felt more of a whole. I think Blood Money and Alice feel completely on of themselves, but because... And obviously one was written 10 years after the other one, so it's not like they were even written, you know, in, say, a fertile musical period where Tom was doing Black Rider as well, where Alice came soon after that. Obviously, Blood Money is kind of more recent, kind of like the 2000s, kind of, you know, whereas Alice is sort of early 90s sort of thing. But inevitably, because of that dual release date, we put them together. And I have to say that I always, and in reviewing the Alice, you know, as we were so mellifluous for it, we loved it, and you know, I was like, oh yeah, Alice is way better than Blood Money. In the back of my head, I was like, yeah, no, there's no contest. And going back, I have to say, I've had a slight change of heart. I think Blood Money is so good, really. I mean, I knew it was so good, but kind of, I've just reinstated a lot of beliefs and discovered new things that I like in songs. But I'm excited to jump in.
This is good. Yeah, I actually thought you were going to be quite a lot more hostile.
No,
obviously drama is good for a podcast, but I'm glad we're hopefully going to be agreeing on things. For me, going back to Blood Money, like, it was never one that I came to late. It's kind of like, you know, a mid album for me. Like, I kind of got into it a couple of years after really getting into Tom Waits. It's not, you know, obscure by any means. I just never got round to it, and everything I kind of felt about it back then, because by that point I kind of knew what Tom Waits was, so I could kind of come at it with my own opinion, really. Everything I felt back then, I kind of just feel now, and has been more exemplified. Obviously, we're going to get onto that later. When comparing it to Alice, there are all those, you know, inevitable, you know, it's the yin to the yang.
Yes.
You know, Tom didn't like. He thought it was a bit tried. You know, calling Alice the more feminine and Blood Money the more masculine, but you know, this is going to be a more aggressive release. This is very, you know, stompy and pompy and kind of mad Tom. But you know, that you know, there was a lot of madness on Alice, but that was it was a bit more subdued and protracted, and definitely more atmospheric. There are atmospheres on Blood Money, but again, it's much more of an assault on the listener. Like Alice did, you know, definitely was, you know, more, we get dreams in Blood Money, but Alice felt more like a dream. You know.
Yeah, Tom said Alice was like a pill, didn't he? And I think Blood Money is far leaner in its approach. It's got a more aggressive, kind of clean style to it. But before we get into our reviews, a few things we've got to discuss first. First thing is, we'd like your reviews, actually, please. I'd just like to send out another call for, if you enjoy the show and you'd like to give back to the show, it would be so great if you could give us a review on iTunes. An actual review would be incredible. You know, 1 or 2 lines, all necessary. But if that's not your thing, and I appreciate that.
We're begging now, we are.
5 stars, 4 minimum, you know, that sort of thing. If you're going to give us 2, please don't. But, you know, we're hoping you're going in the upper echelons of the star count there. But also you can follow us at TomWaitsPodcast. I'm sure you've heard that handle so many times now if you listen to the podcast, but I'm going to keep saying it until...
No, it is like a cult. If we keep drilling it in, eventually people will just start typing it.
We hope so. So at TomWaitsPodcast. Also, we have a YouTube channel, and I'm bringing this to your attention, especially this week, because
definitely.
Me and Sam recorded another bonus episode, our 3rd bonus episode. If you listen to our previous ones covering Tom's early and mid-career. This one is a little different from those. This one is our recollections and appreciations of Tom's incredible VH1 Storytellers performance. This is from, I think it's just around the time of Mule Variations. Mule Variations is a release that he's selling, so it's a little bit slightly before this at that time, but it's an incredible performance. Obviously, Tom is built for storytelling. He kind of invented the Storytellers whole thing with his show. Even before Storytellers, we go into background of the performance, our favourite songs, just, you know, all the good down in the hole stuff you've come to expect, really. It's like 40 minutes, so it's not kind of a marathon listen either. So you can find us Down in the Hole podcast, TomWaitsPodcast. Also have a shop. Yes, we are flogging everything on this episode. I figured we'd bring out some of the old
Even
things.
a dead horse?
Yeah, that we haven't mentioned. Got to get behind the mule. So yeah, we have a Redbubble shop as well. So we sell shirts and mugs and stickers and all that sort of stuff. So if you search Tom Waits Down in the Hole on Redbubble, you should be able to find us. And finally, we have an email. TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com, and we absolutely love it when people get in contact or people reply to our own replies and we get a conversation going, and we always love reading them out on the podcast. And today, just have one today, but that's very much appreciated. This is from Eric Asaris, who has been in contact before. He was the guy, if you remember in our previous episode, mentioned the Tom Waits Joker. We were discussing kind of what...
Oh, yeah.
Who would Tom Waits play in some sort of superhero universe, and he responded that. So
he picked a nice obscure character for Tom, which I did appreciate.
Yeah. It's funny actually, because one of the major kind of sharings is kind of share conglomerates on Facebook, which I'm sure is big globally, but it's definitely a UK thing. Lad Bible.
We've mentioned the Lad Bible on this podcast.
Sorry, not Lad Bible, Unilad, which is kind of the same thing, kind of the sun and the mirror. They're kind of reflections of each other, as it were. But just yesterday, on their hugely popular Facebook and Twitter feeds, they shared the clip of Tom Waits, the supposed 1979 Australian interview that inspired Heath Ledger's voice as Tom Waits.
Yes.
And I went on the comments and everyone's like, "Who's this guy?" Or "This guy's really cool." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Unilad." Like, you know, appreciate that.
That video actually also went to the top of our videos on Reddit as well.
It always will.
And I was like, oh my god, okay, Tom Waits is on the front page of Reddit. So I did go and plug the pod in the comments. I got about maybe 7 or 8 likes for that.
Okay. Well,
so hopefully someone listening to this episode now
maybe
was on that Reddit feed. So
maybe
this is obviously.
And just Tom's influence on popular culture continues.
Yeah.
Not only did he write the theme song to the greatest TV show of all time, he inspired, I'm sure many people will look back on Heath Ledger's as one of the greatest ever, definitely modern cinema performances. And it was inspired by Tom Waits, so there you go. But anyway, we'll get on with Eric's email. Eric begins again. Hi guys, once again another great podcast on another great Waits album. Alice is my go-to album when I need a little artistic inspiration. I can't wait for your critique of Blood Money. So here we are, Eric, not soon to go now. And he also says thanks for mentioning the Tom Waits comment on the podcast that he said. That was a real thrill. Anyway, I remember reading somewhere, although I can't find it at the moment, that the Graveyard John, you'll remember in our previous episode on Alice, there was a reference to Graveyard John in No One Knows I'm Gone, and we didn't know what who that was, basically.
Mysterious lyric, yeah.
Yeah, and we asked the fans, and Eric got back to us and said it may be an obscure reference to Cemetery John, a mysterious figure that's allegedly involved with the Lindenberg baby kidnapping. Now, if anyone's seen, and Sam, it's a film we speak about oddly often, I don't really know why, but J. Edgar, Clint Eastwood's J. Edgar, a film that I really like. No one really seems to like it. Who anyone sees, people seem to think the makeup's bad or it's got slow pacing, but for me, it's about a fascinating moment in American history, kind of the birth of the FBI, the Red Scare, all those kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think we watched that at your house at about 1 a.m, and I don't know how long it was. It did just seem to be its own world, and just watching. Is it Armie Hammer?
Armie Hammer, yeah.
And DiCaprio just go at it at old men as old men, just fucking brilliant.
Yeah, it is. It is great. So basically, that film, if anyone's seen that film, a big part of that film is the Lindenberg baby kidnapping. So Lindbergh
wasn't Grandpa Simpson the Lindbergh baby at one point?
There was rumours. It came out, so he was kind of like a Trump figure, like a Rockefeller figure, and his baby was kidnapped. So interesting reference. And Eric just wraps up that he hopes that helps and keep up the excellent work. So we'll jump on to Blood Money in the Hole, and it's worth keeping in mind that this is yet again another collaboration with Robert Wilson. We've explored 2 before this. We explored The Black Rider and of course Alice, and Tom, went back for more. Really, he couldn't really seem to resist. So this is Wilson's version of Georg Bruckner. I'm so sorry. We need to say this at the start. There's going to be so many surnames and names that me and Sam are going to butcher here. But this is down in the hole. So there we go. This is the place called Wojciech or Wojciech, and it was originally staged in Copenhagen in November 2000. It was adapted by Anne Kristin Rahman and Wolfgang Wings. And what's interesting is that as a play, very similar to Charles Dickens' The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which was his final novel that was left unfinished because he died, Wojciech was left unfinished.
I don't know why, but that title name just made me giggle there.
Edwin Drood. Yes, Drood is quite a sort of like Dickens and Tom actually are so good at surnames. I always remember this guy from Bleak House called Thomas Gradgrind, and he's kind of the guy who runs the mill, and he's just like, yep. And like, obviously Scrooge and Artful Dodger, etc. But anyway, it's interesting because Wojciech, similar to Edwin Drood, were both left unfinished and fragmentary. And Wojciech was left unfinished when the 23-year-old playwright died of typhus in 1837. So he was only 23 when he wrote this, or wrote most of it. And the story is basically of a young working-class soldier who supports his mistress and illegitimate son by performing menial tasks for a condescending capitation and submitting to medical experiments by a doctor in a small town. When his mistress, Marie, is unfaithful to him with a handsome drum major, Wojciech seeks drunken solace in the arms of another woman, but he wakes to find a bloody knife in his hands and Marie's lifeless body before him. And Waits would speak about this story and say, quote, it's a story that continues to surface in Europe. He slits a throat and throws his knife in the lake, goes in after it and drowns, and then his child is raised by the village idiot. I said, okay, I'm in. You had me at he slits a throat.
I love that quote.
Yeah, and it was first Wojciech as a thing. So obviously, I mean, this is kind of part of my criticism of the differing yin and yang of Alice and Blood Money, and we'll get into it further, but they're obviously both from source materials. Wojciech was first performed in 1913. I can't remember exactly when Alice came out. I believe it's like mid-19th century, say 1850s. But they're quite, they're both quite old. They both got a lineage. They're not recent things. They've got a lot of inspiration. But I just think Alice, as you said before, with the cultural kind of representation of, dissemination of its ideas, is the most popular cultural work ever made, in my opinion. Definitely a book. But I don't think Wojciech necessarily has that same kind of just thrust to it.
The same. It barely has any. Well, at least like in our section of the world, like perhaps it is bigger overseas. We don't want to downplay that.
No.
We don't want to sound like, horribly sort of just centralist idiots who don't know anything outside. But even Waits himself, when talking to, again, the Onion AV Club for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're a parody site. He says, I didn't know anything about Wojciech. Kathleen knew more than I, but I didn't really know the story or anything. So even he doesn't even know what this is, and he's this very obviously well-read, learned man. He's even in like the stage production world. He doesn't even know it. He just said he was told the story in a coffee shop in Boston over eggs.
Yeah.
So
well, there we go. Well, it was first performed, as I said, in 1913, and the play is long been recognised as one of the great proto-expressionistic works of German theatre, as well as a play that refused to show the determinism of class and exploitation. Wilson was talking about the play in the. It's worth saying, by the way, as well. There is a 1979 Werner Herzog adaptation of Wojciech.
Oh, Werner.
Yeah. So I'll definitely have to check that out. That'll be really interesting. So Wilson would say of the story, quote, it's much more contemporary than most modern plays. 500 years from now, this will still be an interesting play because there's no shit, there's no garbage. And Waits was drawn to Wilson, so they got together yet again. Waits obviously said he heard the story, couldn't resist to go back, so they went to Copenhagen in early February 2000 for the preliminary discussion, and he was kind of talking about working with Wilson and stuff like this, and he said, quote, I must have recognised aspects of himself in me. He seems almost autistic as he's compelled to communicate, but has the limits of certain known forms of communication, and he's gone far beyond in developing others. For a sober person like myself, working with Wilson was the closest thing to a drug experience available. Which is a really interesting quote by Waits there. He doesn't really pull his punches, especially as someone, recovering in sobriety and seeing him as this, intoxicant. And it's interesting as well that obviously Alice and Blood Money, as you say, are like 10 years apart in the writing, but they were actually as albums. So Waits comes back in 2002 with these two albums, and they were recorded at the same time. And as you can imagine, this was an incredible strain, both musically and even in terms of admin, but I'm sure definitely in terms of psychologically as well. And Waits would say, quote, the reason that no one does two records at the same time is it's too much damn work. And that's when he was speaking to Terry Gilliam, and he said
fantastic interview there.
Yeah, definitely see that interview out, brilliant. And he was saying that even on productive days he felt as if he'd been in the foxhole all day, and on a bad one When the right sound wouldn't reveal itself, Waits would pace the studio in circles or rock himself back and forth on a chair in his customary way. So, I mean, there was clearly a lot of agonising behind the scenes on these two.
Yeah, on this album, I think Tom did know that what was definitely in the play was never really going to translate to a proper album. When he was talking in the Chicago Tribune in 2002, I think he said, "Writing songs for other people is just mortifying at times. You stand by and watch other people completely butcher them. Sometimes they're completely elevated. I figured I could improve upon most of them." And I think in a definite sense, you do always get that with these stage productions that he does for albums. But this one probably the most. I've seen clips of Wojciech online, bits from different productions here and there, and I know they're not big ones. You know, a lot of them could even be seen to be done at the Edinburgh Fringe or something. But they all sound terrible. They're all quite comically bad, and we know for a fact that some of these songs' lyrics were changed for the album release, just to make them a bit more quote unquote songy. And you can tell that a lot of these people who like put on these latter productions, say from sort of 2010 onwards, they've all heard this album and they've changed the lyrics to the Tom Waits album ones.
Yes.
And even try and do the Tom Waits voice. And it's always quite cringy, really. The only one that I saw that was any good was like sort of a whole choir doing "God's Away on Business," which was which definitely sort of had a bit more of like sort of a very just scary angelic quality to it. Waits also called recording these songs for the album the best revenge for people who may have butchered his songs live. So I don't know, maybe he wasn't as proud of Wojciech as the other two, especially since like he didn't even call it Wojciech. In Uncut, Uncut in 2002, he said we were going to call the album Wojciech, but it was thought that no one knew who he was. Kathleen said, "Let's call it Blood Money," and that made sense. The guy's a lower soldier who's offered money for medical experiments, which contribute to his loss of balance and sanity. So yeah, it is a nice album title. It does fit, I suppose. There's lots of red on this album. There is lots of selling yourself on this album. But yeah, I think calling it Wojciech would have just been. It would have just sounded bad as well. It's not a good title, and unless someone says it aloud to you, it is just Wojciech.
Yes. No, completely.
And up until about a year ago, I've been calling it Wojciech.
No, I agree. I actually remember when I first went to university, the Drama Society had a Wojciech poster up. That was their production that year. Obviously, it wouldn't have been the Tom Waits, Robert Wilson version, but the story is constantly portrayed, and it's kind of maybe that lends a little bit to his malaise over it as well, because it's such a constantly interpreted thing. Whereas the Alice story, for my mind at least, I don't think there's a consistent dramatic production of Alice in Wonderland other than Alice in Wonderland maybe, but I don't even know if that has consistent production. So but yeah, there were lots of new and old musicians in the fold, obviously because Alice was being recorded at the same time. You have a lot of crossover, so a lot of the people that we praised on Alice, people like Colin Stetson, Gina Robert, Ara Anderson and Dawn Harms are also on this album. Interestingly as well though, the two principal arrangers in the Wilson Copenhagen production, the original production in 2000, that was keyboardist Bent Clausen and violinist Beb Riesenfor, they were flown to the sessions as well in California, which took place at Prairie Sun, but in a studio called The Pocket, not in the traditional studio in which Waits recorded Mule Variations. And he would say, kind of jumping on what you were saying about him, because I mean ultimately he's written all these songs, he's been a songwriter for 30 odd years now, he's going to know how to do his songs the best. You cannot give these to anyone else, and that is not necessarily the fault of those working on Blood Money or anything like this, because the song is fantastic, but more just that Waits is himself such a genius that he would outshine anything that was a copy of that. And he was saying, quote, with an album you fix it, in reference to people playing it, in an album you fix it, you can wait until it's exactly like you want it and then freeze it in time. But doing a piece of theatre, it's almost like putting a circle of rocks right here and then coming back in 2 weeks, expecting them to all be in the same place, but you still try to fix it. Give it a skeleton. You should be able to know that it's an alligator or a flamingo, even though it'll change position. And you work as if opening night is a night when it'll all be fixed in resin forever. So you've got to have your whole look down, and don't forget your hat. But as soon as you leave, everyone goes, "I hate the way that fucker made me sing that song. He's gone now, so I'm going to do it the way I want." That's human nature. I'm the same way if I was in a play. I've been in some plays, and when the director's gone, it's It's mine now. What's he going to do? Come in the middle of the show and take the hat off? Hell no. Which is brilliant. And again, he's just reinforcing that. But I mean, I think we should leap onto the songs now, because there are some fantastic numbers, Sam, on this. And I think Misery, the River of the World is up there, you know.
Tom Waits, again, shows he knows how to kick off an album. Definitely, in like, if we want to talk about Tom Waits' album openers that set the tone for what is going to be ahead, this is definitely up there in just translating that so immediately. This is Misery is Misery. Is it Misery is or Miseries?
It's Misery is the River of the World, and
Misery.
I'm interested in that title for a few reasons. One, just fantastic title, really. It's a fantastic metaphor. The idea of a river has no end, really. It ebbs into other things and comes and goes. It isn't like, you know, it's a forest that could be cut down. It's just this kind of running thing, obviously constantly in flux. There's this irresistibility to it. There's this incorrigibility to the idea of the river. But I also just like the sibilants. You know, you have misery is, so you have is and is together, and then you have river, riv. Misery is the river. It's kind of, yeah, it's quite hard to get your tongue around the more you think of it. It gives it that slippy nature, as if it's kind of going away from you. But it's also telling. And to preview a few other songs, there are some brilliant titles on these songs, and the titles of the songs seem to play a certain different version for Tom. So you have the more shouty, progressive, headline titles: Misery's the River of the World, or, you know, God's Away on Business, or Starving in the Belly of the Whale. He'll just be repeating that thing. It won't be in the place of anything. It'll just be that thing. You know what I mean? Whereas Coney Island Baby, you know, She's My Coney Island Baby is the title. I See a Red Rose Blooming on Another Man's Vine. Whereas the more aggressive titles just have this kind of like this Viking aggression to them, this pounding nature. But yeah, the title, the phonetic quality on there, that's Tom and Kathleen all over, isn't it?
Like, these titles, like you say, they are kind of prefixing the album in this way, because on this album there really are no sort of halfway or half felt emotions. Everything is in one extreme or completely on the other end of the scale. So we're just going to have either these really sort of beautifully naive, like saccharine type songs, and then we're just going to have this wallowing in human misery on all the other ones. We have this such obvious contrast that like they almost seem to be there to highlight the other ones, really. So you know, the dark songs seem darker because of, you know, how unashamedly bright the lighter tracks are, and then those same lighter tracks seem kind of like ironically misguided and bitter against the sort of the juggernaut of the dark ones, and like their contrast works so brilliantly. But like you say, we start off with the dark side. Waits kicks it off with just, this is a real rump and pumper, isn't it? Like the way the marimba has this very tangible descent into hell feel, like do 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 do.
Yeah, totally.
And you know, especially considering the next song as well. But it is just like it's relentless, and it has that Bone Machine kind of bony quality as well, that like Tom knows just kind of like has this skeletal preoccupation with
Is that
death.
you, Harry Parch?
Definitely. There's a really subtle, there's kind of some subtly impressive gong work going on as well, in that like whoosh, it's very cinematic. Tom really is playing up the idea that these were in a play. You know, these are very sort of unashamedly theatrically dark songs. You know, it is immediately threatening. It would grab an audience's attention like that. I don't think this is the first song actually done in the play. A lot of the orders I kind of missed out on a lot of the data, so we and a couple of the songs aren't even actually performed in the play, which is quite odd. But yeah, as like an album opener, this real stompy, it almost reminds me of Russian Dance, which is quite appropriate for Wojciech, with just that sort of death march quality. Like, you can hear the proletariat just marching forward now down this horrible river. It's so stompy. And it is the dawn of the classic sort of silly Tom Waits voice. Like, there is this distinct element of humour on this album, because like whilst it's very like on the surface level it's quite dark, but if you consider that, you know, Tom's not an idiot. Like, he knows how he sounds in his songs, and he knows what his voice can do, and he knows it's theatre. It is going to be exaggerated. It is going to be over the top. And we're going to get some of the classic, you know, like, so like that. We're going to have that Tom Waits voice. That's where
we are now.
The Cookie Monster thing, and Something that always annoys me about songs from Blood Money is that whenever you put them on a YouTube, especially since God's Away on Business is the one with the music video, you always get people saying, "Oh man, this guy would be a great death metal singer."
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you couldn't be further from. Oh, you couldn't be more wrong, and it's so painful.
He's not interested in your silly riffs. But yeah, I can't get enough of this track. More for its sentiment. It's like Clap Hands in the sense that it's way catchier than it has any right to be. But for me, it's the mythic idea. Again, like I was saying at the start with the title, "Misery is the river of the world." So misery is effectively the sustenance of the world, and lyrically, it's fantastic because there's this idea that you can't get rid of nature, but you can try. And I love the lyric, "You can drive out nature with a pitchfork, but it always comes roaring back again." Pitchforks just give me the Frankenstein crowd idea, like, you know what I mean, driving the monster from the village, but there's nothing they can do, and the whole song's just crammed full of great lines. So Tom isn't going to say, "There's no man happy till he dies." Wow, that's pretty bleak, you know, we're in Bone Machine territory here. But I love the idea that there's no light at the bottom, no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no milk at the bottom of the pail. Which is just a very prosaic way that Tom does it. But for me, you know, same way in Bone Machine as well, chain to the world and we're all got to pull. Mm-hmm. Misery is a river of the road. Everybody row. And it's that
I'm a rain dog too.
Yeah,
as well. Like it does have that sing-along quality to it, almost like the Pirates of Penzance. You know, just like everyone's like, "Everybody row," and like,
completely,
like 50 men on stage rowing. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
I love all the good in the world you could put inside a thimble and still have room for you and me. Oh, Tom, like how immediately pessimistic are you going to be? Are you going to be this down the whole album?
It's quite crushing, isn't it? It's very surprising. It's such a depressed world.
But with that sort of ironic twist, it is kind of humorous in just how depressive and downtrodden he will be in his writing for this one. When the actual song starts in the play, though, it has a spoken intro by Margaret, and I believe it's in 2006 it came out on Bastards as a children's story. You know that once upon a time, there was a poor child, and everything was dead on the world.
And it was like the moon was an overturned bucket or something.
The moon was a piece of rotten wood.
That's
or something.
right. Yes.
Yeah, and that would be a very effective way to start this one. But I do like the immediacy of how this one just comes in. Like you feel this sort of lurching death march coming in from the distance, and then it's just on you, and then you drop, do, and you just get lost in it immediately, and you are, bam, you're in Blood Money. Welcome to Blood Money. And this is what it's going to be like. And he doesn't let up. He goes straight into misery is the river of the world. From now, everything goes to hell. So now, not only is the world shit, but now, like, everyone's going to go from the shit world to hell now, which is just eternal damnation and torture. You know, continuing with that theme of pessimism comes this song, and and it is the ultimate ultimatum of just how pointless everything is, really. And like, I find the tune of this song almost like undescribable. Like, in a sense, like, try, like, if you had to say someone, can you whistle the tune to Everything Goes to Hell?
Yeah, maybe the chorus. A woman when she weeps. Like, I can get that more. But I again, it's got a similar kind of like nebulous, like, chaos rhythm to it. Like, it's just kind of like, it just feels like kind of coming out of the sinews of this devastation. You know, the skittery horn playing around the buzzy guitar as you get in. Like, and I love the internal rhyming as well. Why ask politely? Why go lightly? Why say please? And the way that it feels like the verses rear up on their hooves like an old horse. There are a few things I can never believe, and then just go.
I love his breathy voice. Yeah,
and then into a really nice list of things that Tom's just basically, living in this world, a complete nihilistic doctrine, isn't it, really? Everything goes to hell. If everything goes to hell, literally every single thing, even this podcast is going to go to hell, then, what is the point? Because Tom isn't going to believe anyone. He's not going to believe a drunkard when he plays, even a snake when he's sleeping. So it's a nice play because, like, the first things that he mentions a woman, a merchant, a thief, and a lawyer. And then it even goes down to the animal level. Like, you can't even trust these base nature things as well, like everything, even what's natural, because hey, the river of the world is misery, so anything in this world or atmosphere is not going to be welcoming.
Yeah, Tom made the world sound so bad on the last song that hell almost seems like a better place, really.
Yeah.
We've got in the first stanza is kind of like a lot of the hellish things that like happen to women at the hands of men, and then we have like the second stanza where like men being away from home and being unfaithful, and then like there is a kind of like run of misogyny in the Wojciech character. Like he is obviously this man from an older time. He's not as obviously forward thinking as it would be, and he does get to sort of wallow in these darker base human emotions and sort of like not be challenged in that way. So this darkness is kind of left unchecked, really. And like what I do like is that despite kind of the similar title to the last track, this one is slightly more upbeat. It does have that sort of like rhythmic samba going to it.
Yes.
It's just this Waits laundry list of like paranoid distrust and despair, and once you realise that Tom Waits is just inhabiting a character here, and it's not kind of him spouting off this kind of shit. It does just become this great characterization of being inside this man's head. We've been introduced to the world in the last song, and now we've kind of been introduced to the head of Wojciech and how he's going to perceive all the events that happen to him in this play. And then it just has that great little build up at the end, and then just cuts. Yeah, it's a really nice end.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous end. It's the song itself just goes to hell, I suppose, in a certain way.
Yeah. And like the bongos are like all over the place in the best possible way as well. It's very sort of like boop 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 bap bap bap, kind of like the
Flanders' dad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love the brass dirge to it. It's like a lot of Tom Waits his brass sort of accompaniment has always kind of had like a bit of a personality to it.
Oh, totally.
And this is very much just this kind of background. It's just very atmospheric. These stage productions are almost more like a score, something akin to One from the Heart. They do have that sort of continuity to them, and the Blood Money sound has been defined pretty much already in these two songs.
Yeah.
It is just going to be this very heavy, all-encompassing, loud, aggressive cacophony, and then you're just going to have these very quiet moments. And the next song is the start of one of those quiet moments.
It is. This is Coney Island Baby, which is a song that they've always liked off Blood Money. I think I heard it in a shuffle inevitably when I was a bit younger at school or whatever. And
was that a dance or something?
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that because this does have that dancehall vibe, doesn't it? It's a gorgeous Prohibition, Boardwalk Empire ballad, that has a lot of picture of the frame in its blood. No one can deny that those two songs, I'm not going to say they're similar melodically, but they have that sentiment, don't they? That old-timey kind of almost vinyl reverb. There's a lovely leaning of a violin in this song. I think it's gorgeous. And apparently, in the kind of gestation of this song, Kathleen had said to Waits that it was a circus story. And it starts with the Ferris wheel and the whole thing, and this girl Marie is a Coney Island baby, and Marie, and when she played Waits the melody, a melody that she'd found on piano, he fell in love with it and said, "God, that is just so simple and so beautiful." And I hung on to it and I put it onto a tape recorder and I carried it around, and obviously with Coney Island, it's been mentioned a few times in Waits' thing. Coney Island being an American amusement park in Brooklyn.
It was in Tabletop Joe.
And,
Take It With Me.
Take It With Me as well. Yeah, Take It With Me as well. And Waits himself was speaking about the song as well in 2002. This is to Patrick Donovan, and he was saying, quote, "I think it's impossible to avoid a romantic experience in Coney Island. I went to a shooting gallery there in February. It was the only place open in the whole park. It was one of those shooting galleries where the rifle shoots a beam of light instead of an actual bullet, and all the creatures in the gallery have these light-sensitive bullseye patches on the chest. So if you hit them, the heads come off, a ball goes off, or you hear a loud song. And I had a camera. I was taking a photo of my buddies, and I hit the flash on the camera, and every animal in the cavalry went mad, and this Puerto Rican guy ran out shaking his fist at me and chasing me away, saying I was going to ruin his business. It's an extraordinary place."
The song might also refer to a song written by Vinny Catalano and Peter Alonso, and was recorded by the Excellence in 1962.
The Excellence! I love that.
Yeah, and it just goes, you're my Coney Island baby, you mean so much to me, you're a pretty little lady, I love you so tenderly.
Yeah.
And it's just Coney Island baby, and Waits kind of will possibly be influenced by these more obscure tracks. Like, I don't know how popular this song was particularly.
No.
But he doesn't really take stuff. Like, this very much feels like, this is one of his songs. That fact doesn't change the fact how I see it, how I view the song. If you hadn't have told me that, I'd never have guessed that there was another song with Coney Island in the same way.
No.
It is a very it's just a popular image. I'm sure millions of people have been to Coney Island. The album also mentions Dreamland, which is one of the specific parks in Coney Island, which operated from 1904 till 11 and was destroyed by a fire. So it does have that kind of tragic little Tom Waits tinge. Like if you've done the research, you might know the true meaning of what he's saying. Obviously in Wojciech, in the end, everything is burnt down. Everything is crumbles around his life. Like this one's happy thing has to come to an end. Dreamland's also mentioned in Flower's Grave, Tabletop Joe again. Yeah. And everything you can think of is true. So, it does solidify somewhat the sort of the blood relation between Blood Money and Alice.
Intertextuality.
Kind of like Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane. Like they're kind of linked, but they're not.
So what do you think of this song then? I mean, as a song, is this something when you enjoy?
You know what? It was never one that I really thought about much up until I had to come back to it. I love how it has that sort of Innocent When You Dream 77 feel. And it really is Tom drawing back on those 50s and 40s crooners that inspired some of his earlier works. And it's a slow sort of love-struck sway. It's got some overtly
lovely chorus,
romantic,
though.
Yeah, like I've said earlier, a lot of these sort of quote-unquote happier songs are very unabashedly and unashamedly romantic and
they're sentimental in a good way.
Yeah, these are the nice Tom Waits tropes. Love, stars, dreams. And it's almost got like an Irish fable tinge to it, with that sort of little fiddle that softly strokes. And the brass is totally different than what you think of as Blood Money brass. It's very sort of self-contained and non over the top, with a very 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 appropriate and reserved trumpet solo. And it just highlights the beautiful lyrics. And it's very simple Tom Waits writing. It's
very simple, which is again why it brings me to Picture in a Frame, because I'm gonna love you till the wheels get off. That bridge reminds me a lot of She's a Prince, just in a sort of propulsive,
in a red dress. It's so simple, but yes,
it is so simple, isn't it? It's almost childlike. She's the moon in the mist to me, slightly more poetic.
All the stars make wishes on her rise. Yeah. That's a great one.
She's a spin on my world. Is the one that gets me. I think that's a gorgeous line. And again, yeah. It's this isn't reinventing the wheel or anything, but it's a brilliant track that probably, I don't know. I think it's very important for songs to live outside the incubation tank of context, especially important within musical songs like this. And I think this is one of them. I think people who maybe had no idea that Blood Money was even a play, this is one that will stick with you because it's a gorgeous sentiment regardless. And you can very much see this as Hymn to Kathleen, can't you? Even though it has a narrative behind it, it's not hard to read that into it. And it's a great track, which I can't quite say for All the World Is Green. Sam, how do you feel on this one?
For All the World Is Green, this is one that I first heard on the Letterman. He played it on Letterman probably back in 2002. I'm not sure which of his hilarious interviews followed next. Right. But I remember it being a lot more guitar heavy than what we get on the album. But I do have a soft spot and a bias for this song because it is one of the few Tom Waits songs that I can play on guitar well.
Oh right.
Yeah, I'm not that brill. But it's got a nice uplifting melancholy to it. This time, it again we're kind of heavy on the sentimentality, but it does introduce a kind of sinister element. It is a love you'd kill for, so it's it is being a bit of a prelude for things to come in the play, and it's another sort of disarmingly pretty track amidst the sort of the real weight and grit of the rest of Blood Money, and it's a call for bygone days of love and things described in Coney Island Baby. Yeah. And, it brings up that notion of Waits being just a kind of a master craftsman. He's trying to get us to lit up our guard. Maybe, just the first two tracks on Blood Money were there to grab our attention. And now, I'm always filled with this sort of meta trepidation that I know Waits is always gonna just throw me a curveball the moment I let my guard down. And, it just shows that Wojciech's romantic longings and hopes are just they're not going to go well.
No,
it's not.
No, and the acknowledgement that we must have certain pretenses, to survive. I like the lyrical ambition here, but for me, like the constant critical volley that I was throwing at Blood Money before I delved into the notes was I felt a lot of the songs were quite flabby, quite long. Think Rain Dogs, think Heart of Saturday Night. These are brief tracks. Frank's as well, and but majority of Bone Machine. Tom understands that brevity is the soul of wit, and he plays to that so well. And when I got back to really digging into songs that I'd accused that of, songs like Starving in the Belly of the Whale or Misery of the River of the World, I realised were really good songs, and I was wrong, and that's. But as I sieve, as I panhandle this album for gold, All the World is Green just keeps coming back as a bit of coal to me. It's a bit slow.
Really?
Yeah, there's a boxy way that Tom can sometimes get trapped in his songwriting. I'm thinking of songs like Strange Weather and A Little Rain. He relies on quite predictable chord progressions that don't lead you anywhere, and this is one of them. I kind of like the junctive nature to the song, and I love the opening. I fell into the ocean when you became my wife. I risked it all against the sea to have a better life. And the song does have that kind of plopped, kind of submerged quality to it that I really enjoy, but it's a little boring. I'm struggling to find much worth in the dawdy bumble of it all.
Well, it's interesting. In the stage version of the play, this song's actually split between Wojciech and Marie. So like he'll start with the "I fell into the ocean," and then she'll sing "The face forgives the mirror."
Yeah.
Like I think that would be a lot more interesting.
I agree.
Like what if Waits had in his later career done another duet?
Crystal Gale's back.
I was going to say Bette Midler, fuck it. I mean, I still personally think Waits' wife Kathleen sang on Reeperbahn on the last album. No one's gotten back to us with any sort of info on that yet. That's still a mystery because I can hear her. But if he had done that with her on this album, that could have been something spectacular.
TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com.
But for me, this is a track that highlights just the fantastic instrumentation of Bone Machine. Again, we have some fantastic marimba that has this thick mood to the affair and gives the song that uneasy sense of tension that it needs. But it's also quite odd for a love song. And then we've got the heartbreaking clarinet. Like woodwind is not something I normally think of when I think of Tom Waits, but it does flutter around like a guitar, especially later in the song, and it has this really reserved, just little, like it's almost it's out of breath. Like the whole sense of the love is waning away. There's no energy to this song because it does reflect Wojciech's own longings to get back to something that just isn't there. The song kind of has run out of a bit of a steam, and you can always say how many of these songs work better in the play, and how many work well on the album. And perhaps for you, Tom, this might just be that. But
Maybe.
it's a love story with a bit of melancholy, and a naff slow fader is cut off with a nice little guitar strum as well before it gets too sort of cliche, which I like.
Yeah, the composition's good. I mean, Blood Money's sound compositionally, I just don't know. There's not much blood in there, but it's quite interesting as well. There's a few lyrical miscellaneous things here. He says, "The worm forgives the plough." Which obviously a great line, but it's not his line. It's from the great sort of romantic poet, I guess pre-romantic poet, William Blake. This is from Proverbs from Hell, where he basically says, quote, "In seed time learn, in harvest teach, in winter enjoy. Drive your cart and your plough over the bones of the dead. The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. Prudence is a rich, ugly old maid, courted by incapacity. He who desires but acts not breeds pestilence. The cut worm forgives the plough."
Wow.
I know, it's great. Definitely check out The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. Fantastic.
There are some lyrics that were left out of the final recording. So it was lie to me about it all, call back yesterday. We lay down on a shady grove with the yellow buds of May. Now the shadows are getting longer, winter's moving in. It's colder than I remember that it's ever been. And yeah, if you had to leave some out, Tom, I'm glad you picked them. They're not exactly the most...
No, they're not
evocative as the rest, but it's got a nice mixture of hope and gloom, which is something that Blood Money is all about. But for years though, until I actually knew about the Wojciech play, I never knew why he said Marie, And now that I know that there is a character named Marie, it does make a bit more sense.
Marie's in Hang Down Your Head as well. I know it's a different Marie, but maybe it's just some sort of like one of his stock names, like his Rosie's or his Martha's.
He could just say Kathleen. It's the same amount of syllables.
It's a little too long, isn't it? It's got
Kathleen.
that k, whereas there's a soft mer, but I get what you're saying. Kathleen Brennan. I don't know what. I just love that name as well. I know we're so fawning, but I just think it's a great name for a person.
Brennan's Glen is one of his best rhymes as well. Yeah. I love that.
It's lovely.
But from a very angelic figure, we go to the YouTube whore of a song that is God's Away on Business. Tom.
I need to do a blog post, TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com, by the way. Check out all our posts on there and host the episodes, etc. I need to do a blog about just the best Tom Waits song titles, because I think God's Away on Business might be up there. As a line, I've been just entranced by this line of this song for so long. I just think it's the perfect encapsulation of Tom's kind of juxtaposition between mythic entities like God, and it's almost like Willy Loman from Death of a Salesman, or, kind of like 1950s like Hucksters or Glengarry Glen Ross or any of that stuff. He's away on business, you know what I mean? God's away on business. What business? I mean, it kind of plays to the testament of like, he moves in mysterious ways and you must have faith. He's doing something else, you can wait for that sort of stuff. The song, however, I think it's a perfect example, and it's a rare thing that happens in Tom Waits songs. It doesn't happen very often. I think it happens probably at the end of Blue Valentine as well. A couple of those tracks suffer from it as well. It's less than the sum of its parts. I think there's some fantastic rhythmic playfulness here, and I really like the lyrics. But to quote Lars Ulrich in one of the best music documentaries ever, Metallica's "Some Kind of Monster," feels a little stock to me.
Okay. It does kind of. I can see how you feel that, because like this would be the generic sort of show someone kind of crazy.
If they're like show
Tom.
If they're like show me like that Tom Waits that I know, then yeah.
But I do enjoy it. Again, I think he's pushing that sense of humour to it. Like, it's entirely intentional on two levels though, just because again it's based on the play and the theatrical nature of it. But Tom knows how his voice sounds, and in the absence of God, Tom is totally inhabiting his devil voice, which is great. And it is just, it's not even out there. It is just. I know what you mean by stock, but I think that gives it kind of the wrong feel. It does just feel like the best of what he does with this kind of mode. And
I think "Starving in the Belly of the Whale" is better in the same mode.
I just like the amount of fun he's having with it, and he clearly is. You've got that great dirgy little guitar that screeches.
Joe Gore's only feature on the album.
Yeah, and it just gives an edge and a bite to the thump, and the brass is taken to the extreme. The beat hurls you across the blood money pump. And it is just, again, this force of nature of a song with this great concept, Is God too busy? Did he never exist at all? Or does he just not care about us? And, the sense of nihilism and pessimism in Blood Money is really bigged up again in these darker, crazier songs. With the lyrics, "There's a leak in the boiler room," it's actually part of like a nonsense song that I'm pretty sure you see Waits playing for a brief time in Big Time as Frank.
Oh.
There's a leak in the boiler room. So I don't know. Again, it's showing that even with things like the Eyeball Kid, if he's got something that he wants to put in a song, he's definitely going to put it in there at some point. And it's just, again, it's so obvious and so aggressive in that way, and it isn't trying to be anything subtle, but it still has this great sort of underscore of discordance and melancholy to it. And "The ship is sinking" is probably the most cynical Waits line ever. Isn't that where you had that quote about September 11th about Waits? Like he actually said that directly.
Yes. And
the ship is sinking.
Yeah, I like the rhythm of the song. Business. I mean, it's kind of fun. Nick Phelps on the trombone and baby trumpet gives a nice rumble in the background, and again, he works well on that kind of hitting the head on the nail kind of chorus. And there are some great deliveries on lines. "There's always free cheddar in the mousetrap, baby. It's a deal. It's a deal." Like, he's back in step right up mode there.
The way he says lawyers is just absolutely hilarious. Yeah. Like, again, he's having a pop at lawyers again
in the Coliseum.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, it's not like those same lawyers like got you millions from Frito-Lay or anything, but
and other lawsuits as well. But
but it's just killer season lawyers.
Yeah,
so it's so theatrical, and he really is acting while he's singing here. Interestingly, though, the original line was "killers, thieves, and whores." So I don't know. Is he doing that to sort of say? Is he showing his respect to whores, or is he not allowed to say that line?
Well, it's funny you mention that, actually, because when Bruce Springsteen covered Jersey Girl, Bruce changed whores on Fifth Avenue to girls on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure what the whore placement is there. But Waits was interviewed, something we've quoted from a lot in Alice, the anti-press kit. And he gets asked, "You've been singing a song about God being away on business. Why is that?" And he said, quote, "I don't know. It's hard to say. It's song logic, I don't know. Perhaps he's away indefinitely. Perhaps he was never there. There are two different schools of thought on that, I guess." And then he's asked, "And you called his office and get on message?" And Waits is like, "Yeah, well, no. It's just one of those things you say in order to explain the way you feel in a metaphor. I guess it feels sometimes in the world that God is away his business and he's not coming back."
Yeah, there's a little interview with him on YouTube, and there's an emu walking in the background, and it looks like it's on the set for this song. And he just muses whether God again is away indefinitely, or that he was never here, and then he spends the other half of the very short clip. It's like, oh yeah, a Tom Waits interview. Oh, it's 1 minute 33. Oh, okay. And the rest of it, he talks about how emus are descendant from dinosaurs. Well, feathers are basically scales before they were feathers. When he did this song back in 2004 in Amsterdam, I actually kind of enjoyed not more, but again, when Tom does live things, he always does something so interesting that could make you possibly forget about a studio version. And it had this more sorrowful Eastern Bloc Requiem feel to it. It was really good.
Okay.
And we go on to
oh man, Another Man's Heart Attack and Vine.
This is like Alice levels of sadness. This is such a horrid little song. Again, some more fantastic marimba. It's got that really mysterious quality. The suspicions of the singer are being aroused, and just the image of the red rose blooming on another man's vine. It's so perfect. It translates everything.
It's one of his all-time greatest metaphors, I think.
Yes.
It's outstanding because it kind of circumvents the idea of kind of modern kind of ownership of a woman, and it's the idea that this woman's with someone else and she's blooming around someone else, and it's more poignant and painful that way rather than just conveying selfishness. It suggests a union that is deep in terms of roots and beneficial. So she's way better with this person than she was with you, and you can visibly see that. It's not just, oh, he's a dick or whatever, he has a bigger car than me or whatever. So no. Her soul is nourished by this person, and she's growing through him. And that is just, both for Wojciech, obviously we described the synopsis earlier on, but just to experience personally, when you see like an ex-girlfriend or whatever, or an ex-partner or someone go through that, or in any sort of circumstance, is painful. And Another Man's Vine is, this track's just one of his very best. I love this song.
And he does all of that with such brevity.
Oh yeah, the song is. I've just got it up now. The song is 2 minutes 28. Really short.
We have to big up Shakespeare's 400th
birthday.
Brevity is the soul of wit. But yeah, it's so metaphorical in just its heart-wrenching depression, and it's accompanied by this exhaustive wheeze that permeates the whole song. Like the brass feels like it is coming to the last miles of a long journey. Rather fittingly, Wojciech's relationship with this woman is also coming to an end, and this smog you have to walk through, that they happen to stumble through, especially like the first half. It just deals with subject matter that's just so emotionally overwhelming, and then you've got the second verse with Golden Willie leaving to shore, and it's just so sad. Will she stay steadfast? The fact that you bring that question up already is loaded with such a weight anyway, that no nice emotions are felt, even on the lower levels of Blood Money. Like Tom's not attacking with us on this song. It's not very complicated. It's quite somber, and it just rolls softly. And then like the real pain just comes from the strain in his voice. A red rose.
And he says red rose in 3 lines. It's just that encapsulating intoxicating perfume of someone else's flower.
It's very stripped down from the rest of Blood Money as well.
Yeah, it feels like if go listen to Dirt in the Ground and listen to Another Man's Vine, they have very similar exhausted piano chords at the start. But just I love how when Another Man's Vine starts, you have the marimba in the corner, like almost like a vine, like, you know, going up and down and encircling. And
it almost sounds like a xylophone to me.
Yeah. And like you say, there's no solo here. There's just 2 verses, 2 choruses. We're in and we're out. And I just need to heap praise yet again on this metaphor because it just sticks in my head, and I think the music complements it so perfectly. Like you were saying, it is this foggy kind of, you know, just like a forest almost. And it's worth saying as well that I never knew until Tom Waits Library told me last week what the first word to this song was.
A bougainvillea.
Bougainvillea. So obviously Tom, you know, loves all types of trivia. Obviously lots of town names and lots of food, and occasionally, you know, he'll dip into botany. And you know, we have I'm not going to say it. Whatever. So basically,
Louis de Bougainvillea.
Yeah. In 1768. I beg your pardon. Admiral Louis de Bougainvillea began his long journey to Pacific Ocean and discovered the vine that now bears his name. It was the botanical highlight of the voyage. Through the ensuing years, the Brazilian beauty has assumed its rightful place as one of the most popular, spectacular, and beautiful tropical plants. Are you all right?
No, I could just imagine this Louis guy, and he's at his press conference on the way back. He's like, but what was the botanical highlight? Yeah, it is one of those words that you would have to look up. You know, with Eyeball Kid, I just can't. I did not know what he was saying until I had to check the Tom Waits Library. But the lyrics on it are always there, and they're pretty similar to the stage version as well, almost word for word as well.
Yeah, it's a perfect song. I really, you know, I can't.
A perfect song, really.
I really think it's just beautifully done. I think the construction behind Tom is so elegant and captivating. The metaphor is joyous, and plus you have just you know, the idea the bees will find their honey the sweetest every time. So there's an inevitability similar to how nature is kind of always against you. This girl we're always going to go towards what's better, and that is something you've got to get a hold of. That anything you pleasure as a rose could grow on another man's vine, and you know, but it's a vine, you know. It suggests that maybe she could go off to other things as well, but she won't be going towards you. And Willie, you know, we hear about his escapades, his Dear John letter that is inevitably coming, and it's tragic.
And Tom has perfectly lulled us into a false sense of security again. You know, you are left very tranquil at the end. And then you were hit by one of the first 2 instrumentals on this album. Tom is back in full force with the sort of mid-town romp. This is a pretty this is a song that we've always talked about in terms of Tom Waits, really. There's a quote that you love. Who's it by? Sorry.
So basically Guy Garvey, who
from
Elbow, the lead singer, an incredible. If anyone's listened to Seldom Seen Kid, they'll know they're brilliant band Elbow, but especially brilliant lyricist Guy Garvey. Beautiful turn of phrase, very Tom Waits-esque, and I know that he's a massive Tom Waits fan. And I followed him on Twitter, and I just dug up this tweet because this tweet is from the 28th of May 2011. So, you know, coming up to almost 7 years ago this happened. Hang on, 7 years, is that right? It's 5 years. But yeah, this is him basically saying, quote, "Knife Chase by Tom Waits on headphones makes the world hilarious and creepy. Try it." And that's very true. That's kind of like you were saying, like how Everything Goes to Hell is almost, it's so kind of over the top, it's almost funny or, you know, parodic in a certain sense. And
it's cartoonish, isn't it?
Yeah, because this song, like almost a knife chase, kind of is quite a scary thing, but it's kind of done in this 1920s, kind of way of doing it.
It's very sort of Pulp Fiction noir detective, but it almost has this Disney-esque level to it as well. Like it does feel like it could be like the, you know, this accompanied by this vision of this dark shadow in an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Oh yeah.
I love the breathing in this track. It really like sells the image of the chase, and you know become engrossed as you know on the part of the chasee, and it intensifies as the song progresses, and you feel like you know the pursuer is always after you, and you're starting to become worn down, and it's just like it's really atmospheric.
Yeah,
and you do feel like you know some you know hotshot private eye dick. He's like hot on your tail, like he is gonna get you, and you have the pounding heartbeat of the percussion, and you've got Larry Taylor's almost like Rimbaud-esque hyper-tense guitar playing that is just so effortlessly cool.
Yeah, and the song just heaves in and out. Sometimes it'll go to just one instrument, then you'll have 4 or 5 on top of you, and it's got this nice fractious guitar, and the piano is making loads of leaps. And whilst it doesn't have necessarily the sort of interrogative rigor as, say, a Closing Time, the instrumental, which is much more a piece, or another Sucker on the Vine or something like that, this is more in the mode of a Midtown, where it kind of just introduces a motif and kind of repeats it back and forth. You get the breathing, as you say. And on drums, interesting, making his debut is Casey Waits, Tom's son. And Tom basically said about this briefly, he said, quote, "If you grow up in the mortuary business, you're probably going to be an undertaker. I told him, if you want to be an astronaut, I can't help you." But yeah, Casey does well, and Casey's obviously going to feature on... Actually, no, I think Casey was on Mule as well. Sorry, but again, probably a little mistake on my part. But around this era is when Casey's kind of emerging in Tom's music, and he'll be a fixture since. So I'm pretty sure he's on Bad As Me, and it's probably on Real Gone. I'm not quite sure about that. But yeah, I mean, it's a brief track, and maybe in the context of the album doesn't make sense. Probably makes more sense on stage. But it's a fun one, and what Guy Garvey says is fun. Pop these on some headphones, and you will feel like you're being pursued, and you won't mind.
I listened to this on the 937 bus from Aldridge to Birmingham, which
local reference.
For anyone who knows that bus, knows it is the greyest and dullest and sightless bus trip you've ever. Yeah. Like there is nothing to look at on the way, and Knife Chase made it tense. Like there was a little Volvo behind us. It was scary. It was. And Tom's ability just to translate that instant, like it is very much like it's part of a soundtrack from a film, and you do feel thrust into that world, and for a stage play to feel like you are a part of a world so instantly is going to be perfect, and it will get across exactly what you need. Then we go back, strong soft. We are back onto the soft mode again. This is a song that was also known as the Overturned Pot. This is Lullaby. Sung by Marie in Act... Oh, sorry. It was sung by Marie in Act 1, Scene 3, and by Carl the Fool in Act 3, Scene 2. Like, I had to get that.
I didn't... Yeah, Lullaby is, it's fine. It's the sort of thing Tom could write in his sleep. It doesn't feel like he's pushing him in any way. I like the fawn-like quality.
I've got the word fawn here as well.
Yeah. It feels very much... I mean, again, the intertextuality of these two albums are inevitably going to be some spillover in influences and modes. And, this feels like Fawn, the instrumental that closes. I believe it closes Alice. And, and there's a nice, really nice arch note, 18 seconds from the end, that kind of pulls up as Tom says, "Don't cry, don't you weep." And that works. And it's interesting as well that the first and second verses kind of see a swapping of stanza forms with the lines. So in the first one, you have ending with "If I die before you wake, don't you cry, don't you weep." And you have that becoming the third and fourth lines from the lullaby. And the closing lines of the second paragraph being "Nothing's ever yours to keep, close your eyes, go to sleep," which is in the middle of the first. That kind of interests me on a poetic visual level. I don't know whether that gives the song any more meaning for any of the listeners. TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com if it did. Were you interested in Lullaby like I was? But elsewhere in Lullaby, I find myself maybe scratching for things to say because there's not too much. Yeah, I think it's a bit stock again.
For me, like if this wasn't so oboe-y, I think it would easily work on something like Mule Variations.
Wash your mouth out.
It shows like his surrealness isn't totally out on this one, but as a song of comfort from a father to his child, I think it has that real warmth and sincerity that really does, Tom reassures us on this album, where we have to, face the harsh realities of life, and it's constantly hurled at us. But here, Tom lets us know that it is all right, and it do, this is very much a womb type song for me. You do feel very safe, and I think what makes it feel quite safe, possibly in a detrimental way, the entire arrangement feels almost very Closing Timesy, with a kind of Bones Howe-esque arrangements of like that minimal backing orchestra, and Tom just plucking on a guitar again. And yeah, Lullaby is quite heartwarming to me, and it appears on what's otherwise a very oppressive album. You do feel like you're emerging from a thick forest into quite a tranquil field. Yep. But I will, concede that you're not going to put it on a compilation. You're not going to seek it out anywhere.
Even these types of songs that Tom does, he's just done quite a few better than this.
I don't know. I think
Jonesburg, Illinois.
To say he could write it in his sleep, though, I think might be a little bit too mean. I do think there's a bit of genuine emotion here. Well, especially like Tom is a father. So.
Let me gush wildly then in antithesis, because I love Starving in the Belly of a Whale.
Oh, I'm glad you do.
Yeah, I think it's incredible, and I think I said to you before when we met up a few weeks ago that the opening rhythm feels like a bit like "Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus, here." It doesn't go down, 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 and I can't stop thinking about that. But just there's that build, there's that kind of that belchy burp of a rhythm at the start, and I just love how the curtains pull away and life is weird, and you just have that little waily, little noodly guitar kind of keeping it going for Tom. And this is amongst Charles Musselwhite returns, who is seriously one of my favourite Tom collaborators of the later era. This is the guy who...
One of the best names as well.
Yeah, this is the guy who plays the... harmonica on I believe he plays it on Pony and some other tracks as well, Chocolate Jesus, and probably some other songs as well. He's a brilliant player. I believe he's on Alice as well, and he's there. And you have Colin Stetson on bass clarinet. That's kind of the wimble at the start, but then when it just goes just that really kind of like
it's very cheeky.
Yeah, it's kind of Chet Atkinsy kind of little boisterous little rhythm there. And Waits is so confident on this track. He just sounds so mighty.
It's definitely. Again, we are back in this aggressive mode, but I love how Tom is using like one of the most ridiculous stories in the Bible and sort of highlighting that against the sort of humour of Blood Money. Like, this isn't a song to be taken too seriously, but it still like incorporates those dark themes featured elsewhere on the album. And its grim joyousness just, lumps it deeply in its theatrical roots. Like, I can imagine this one being great on stage. It's almost like a jolly Danny Elfman type demon carnival.
Yes.
Like, Waits does push the limits of his OTT style again, and possibly more successfully than God's Away on Business.
Far more.
Just the guitar itself does set this apart from that. Just because you have something to hang on to, and Tom does kind of legitimize and prove that these types of songs are unquestionably a solid part in his discography, and this is a very definite sound for him at the time, and he's showing that, like, even though these songs can be quite comical, they're still to be taken seriously as great songs. And it's just got this like really dirgy, industrialized, almost like Delta blues sounds in parts, and it's sort of the sound he'll be working and playing around with on a Bastards. And a lot of people have said with a lot of the songs in Wojciech that kind of don't develop. I think this one, it doesn't really. Again, a lot of these songs don't particularly go from one place to another like they did on Alice, where you had those sudden drops that would just go into sudden madness. Yeah. A lot of these songs they set out their basic progression in the first half and then just follow that. Whereas this one, it's so enjoyable regardless. It doesn't feel as drawn out as it possibly could.
Yes, entirely.
The chorus is so enjoyably addictive, but I think in some of the songs, like maybe the next one we'll get onto, some of the ideas maybe don't deserve repeat.
No,
I love the woodwind on this one as well. It kind of acts as like the bass. It's like it's got that great sort of just, again, score-like progression to it.
And Starving in the Belly of the Whale is a great, again, metaphor for no hope in the world. That's effectively what we're doing, living every day on Earth. We are, even if we could try to escape, we're just gonna hit the top of the mouth. And Waits says that. I love the "Don't take my word, just look skyward." So the idea both of like there's nothing out there, but also look up and you will see this massive whale throat above us that we're trapped in. And then the next line, "They that dance must pay the fiddler," was supposedly attributed to Abraham Lincoln. He supposedly coined that phrase, but the phrasing in this song, oh my god, the opening four lines magisterial in my eyes. Life is whittled, so immediately the idea that life is carved as easy as wood. Life is defined by exterior forces that we aren't. Life's a riddle. Man's a fiddle that life plays on, which is just so raw. Just the idea that we're pure vessels. There is no sovereignty within ourselves to play any music. We are just victims of exterior chance. It's horrible, but delightful as well, and just so poetically terse. I just have to applaud how good the writing is on this album.
Sky is darkening, dogs are barking. Doesn't quite work now, Tom, does it?
Not as good. Not as good. But the caravan moves on,
Yes. It does move on, and we move on to a song that's oddly enough not performed in the play.
Right.
So I don't know if it was written for it, but maybe just put to one side, and Tom thought this would work better on an album. I haven't read anywhere in the literature that says this song was created specifically for the album.
No.
So it must have been something on the wayside. Possibly if it hadn't appeared on here, it would have been on Orphans. But this is the part you throw away. And this has a lovely little hollow winding creep to it. And, I think the song feels like it's meant to be winding tighter around you, like coiling up. And you think, you're going to lose your breath. But it really doesn't develop enough for me. Fundamentally, this is kind of like a pretty mediocre entry. That, I do have a bit of a soft spot for it. But I kind of feel like it may be better than I perceive it. But I don't have a lot of warmth to it, really.
This is one of the worst Tom Waits songs.
Do you really think so?
Yeah, I really think so. I think this is one of the most boring, standard, nothing's going on. I think the bridge, by the way, the thing that will you lose the flowers holding to the vase, is one of the most generic things Tom has ever written. I was rolling my eyes listening to it. I was like, bloody hell, mate. I was
let's get the lyrics up.
You're on auto. No, it's not the lyrics. It's not really the lyrics that are that bad. It's just kind of just the way he's doing it. It's so predictable. And this song is the second longest song, as I was saying before. There's some long songs on this album. There's nothing over 5 minutes. There's no real beasts. There's no pot of fields. But there are just, because there aren't that many ideas, so Tom's kind of stretching it over thin bones, and this one does not work for me. This one, same as All the World Is Green as well, it just has this generic standardness to it, as if there's this crank that just, and out comes Blood Money, and here we are with these songs that are just in a mode that Waits was, smart to kind of go on the more primal route with Real Gone, because if he would have continued in this mode, maybe he would have had more songs like this. And I'm glad that, that we've got this as a lesson, but I kind of hope that this song was the part that he threw away.
It's funny that the most interesting point about this song is actually about how someone didn't hear it properly.
Right.
You've mentioned earlier that Waits was talking to Terry Gilliam, and Tom was talking about this in USA Today, and he said, "I like the missing pieces. I don't like things too tidy." Terry Gilliam heard the line, "In a Portuguese saloon," from the part you throw away. And he thought I was saying, "On the porch, the geese salute." That's better. I hope more people misunderstand me. And again, that has aroused more emotion than the entire song did. Like, for me, it's not one of the worst. I would put it as one of the worst Tom Waits songs ever. It does work in the context of the Blood Money album. We are coming to a slower latter half, and it's quite. I don't want to say it's fundamental, but it kind of is, that the latter half of Blood Money doesn't match the first half in quality.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of the more sagging tracks do appear on here, but I do like we've got this kind of like a cruel little waltz, and the first line refers to dancing directly. We've got the "I watched her disappear," so a kind of seedy whisper that he does that I like so much. But you are right, it doesn't go anywhere quickly, does it?
No, it does not. And again, I'm looking through the lyrics now on the screen, and there's nothing I'm like, okay, this is a crap line or anything. It's just, a
Mexican divorce felt quite like generic.
Well,
Tom Waits.
yeah. I mean, his dad was a Mexican teacher, wasn't he? Maybe a Spanish teacher.
I think so. Yeah.
But it was just kind of unfulfilling, I suppose. And everyone has these. Everyone has filler tracks, and this is filler. But we'll move on to "Woe," which you're not a fan of, are you, Sam? No?
This song is quite woeful to me.
Right. Could have done better.
I never seek out woe, and I don't think anyone ever does. Because, this song's quite inconsequential to me.
Yeah.
This is one of the ones that I think may work off better within the context of the play, really. But, and it comes at a point on the album where I've already been kind of brought down by the last song as well. So I'm like, oh, now that and then woe. I'm like, okay, with like the dispiriting lyrics of it and the mellow tone, on top of the fact that it just followed the last song, makes me just feel like this is going nowhere equally as fast as well. What? No, whose Tom Waits playlist has woe? No one.
At Tom Waits Podcast, Tom Waits Podcast at gmail.com. If you
10 emails
like
now. Oh my, whoa,
yeah,
my
whoa,
song.
dude. But no, it's a nice. I don't mind woe. There's a ham-fisted grandiosity about woe that I respect, even though I think ultimately it fails. I like I like best the descending John Williams arcs of fanfare at the end, but the rest is fine. The idea of
it's kind of late John Williams though, like Force Awakens, nothing memorable.
Yeah. I like the idea of retreating from fate. Obviously, fate and destiny is a huge theme in proto-expressionist German theatre. Robert Wilson and Wojciech obviously love that sort of idea. In Alice, it's big as well. And the idea that the band is playing our song, but we won't go till morn. I kind of like that idea. Death is coming, the band is playing a song. At least that's how I read it in the context of the Wojciech story. And
it is lyrically the shortest Tom Waits song, isn't it? It's just 6 lines or 5 lines.
Probably, yeah. I can't think of anything actually short off the top of my head. Maybe it'll be something in Bastards, but I don't think so. Yeah, it's only 1 minute 20, and again, not much is done here. I can't. Also known as Wojciech's Woe, we should say as well.
It's got a nice initial vibration to it, but as it progresses, it does just fail to stand out to me as anything memorable.
I'm hard to be negative because it's so short, but I agree it's not too distinct. But those horns at the end are nice. They're rich,
But even with like these brief lyrics, don't live up to anything like "No One Knows I'm Gone" or "Johnsburg, Illinois."
No, it's true.
What I do like though is how it kind of merges into the next song rather seamlessly.
It does it very well, yeah.
This is a song that is really, really enjoyed by our resident artist and friend Danny O'Gorman.
Oh, does he like this one?
He loves Calliope.
Oh, right.
Calliope is a song that I really didn't look forward to coming back to looking at all. But it kind of has this like Stephen King's It feel about 125 in, and it really is just that sort of demonic carnival. Tom actually got a big Calliope. He found one day, and he said it took 4 guys to pick it up and put it in the back of an old El Camino. It was massive and all bells and whistles, and it is this huge machine.
Yeah, giant.
Like, if you don't know what a Calliope is, it is that sort of generic do 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 do. Circus nightmare music for people like me who hate clowns and hate people dressed up like Mickey Mouse and parrots.
You're chorophobic.
Chorophobic. Yeah, kind of like.
Okay.
Stephen King's It didn't scare me that much. I remember the last chapter shocking me a lot. For those who know what I'm on about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we know that in these live stage performances, Tom can't help himself but connect it to the circus again, which is, the best recognised stereotype of the live experience. And he brings it back into that sort of step right up world where we are to gaze upon something, but the gaze always has this undercurrent of real menace and danger. And it's a pretty interesting song. He proves that discordance isn't always bad, and he tries to push the boundary of that with this medley that's always perfectly hidden within, and you still get a song out of it. And you've got the very, very dynamic trumpet, which has this sort of like drunken Satchmo quality. And it plays the very lost and wandering feel that all of Blood Money has. Like it's not the descent of madness that was in Alice. It's more like this is like forgetting who you were and becoming someone else rather than getting lost. And Calliope, it's a nice little merry-go-round song. It also reminds me a lot of Please Wake Me Up from Frank Swaldier's. It does have that dreamlike quality again.
It does, definitely. Yeah, I don't mind this one. Doesn't really have any structural discipline, but it's like I say, it's not meant to. It's got that sort of amnesiac, freeform kind of thing to it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Brian Eno's music for airports, in the sense that you don't feel like this is being played. You feel like this is just kind of almost like if you dropped a stone into a river and just the ripples just go out forever. It just feels like this Calliope is just going to keep playing forever and redoubt itself. It doesn't feel like there's fingers on the end of the sound, and in that sense, it's quite enjoyable. But it doesn't allow for maybe much replay value, and I'm interested to know where this takes place in the show itself as well. But Waits had, I'm sure there are Calliopes on Swordfish, and he'd always tried to indulge it. I'm pretty sure I saw one mentioned in an interview. I can't remember the song off the top of my head. That was on TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com. But yeah, it's not. I mean, in the grand hall of Tom Waits' instrumentals, it's not in the top 10, but it's not one of his worst. It's just kind of self-expression in its purest form, and you got to take it as that.
Do you not just feel like we've had a bit of a letdown for the last three or four songs. Part You Throw Away, Woe, Calliope. It's not the best run for like ending a Tom Waits album.
No.
It feels very disjointed.
It
like
does.
if this was on vinyl, like it would kind of notoriously like be one of those sort of don't bother with the second half types.
Yeah, I think Alice is far more cohesive, isn't it, and consistent than Blood Money. Blood Money does peter off. But that being said, Blood Money does end with a fantastic song. A good man is hard to find, Sam, or a good man in brackets is hard to find.
Yeah, it's an admirable little quirky song, but it almost feels like it's going to be a little bit too little too late at this moment. But I do like Tom indulging himself in that sort of old-timey honky-tonk.
Oh man, I love when he's there, yeah.
Yes. And like being able to like relish in these historical set-piece plays just allows him to indulge in that as well. And it's another sad truth again from these very evocative titles, and we can expect the same kind of demented fun with a dark tinge. And Waits again, he delivers that, and he ends the album on quite a bittersweet note, as opposed to Alice's very mournful swan song Fawn. But maybe the bittersweet note is the point of Blood Money. We knew it was never going to end well, but at least like it's the melody and the tunes kind of uplifting, despite how the lyrics do not match that at all. Like with the way he's building up to that like crescendo at the end, you feel like he was saying like "and I'm free" or for tomorrow, but he's just like "my favourite colour's red."
Yeah.
Which is just blurred, which is just Blood Money. It's very fitting, and I can imagine like Wojciech killing himself at the end of this song. I imagine it's not the song at the end, but it does feel like it does have that natural conclusion in its very classic yet kind of jaunty nature, and it's a nice counterpoint for a sad ending. Our hero's lost his wife and he's gone mad. It could be even questioning whether Wojciech himself was a good man.
Yeah, I adore this song for many reasons. One, I think the melodies are just so rich. I think they're gorgeous. Well, how can you not sing along when it starts? And a good man is hard to find as well. The whole chorus is beautiful. It has that propulsive swing into the water kind of feel that Tabletop Joe has. It kind of just throws you out of there. And it's very, in a sense, again, the similarities, but the symbiosis between these two releases, Alice and Blood Money. You can see a bit of Tabletop Joe in this song. At least I can. And it's interesting as well, because obviously a good man is hard to find. When I came back to this album, the first thing I thought of when I saw the song title, which I'm sure many people would have thought of, is this is obviously a very, very famous American short story called The Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor, who's someone that I'm just getting into at the moment. I'm reading her and Eudora Welty. I love those kind of deep South female writers. I just think they're the best. Grace Paley as well is brilliant. Alice Munro is Canadian, but she kind of inhabits those same roles. But yeah, anyway, just got a little bit here about the story as well, which maybe it might not be, but it's hard to see that it wasn't, because there's no way Waits wouldn't know about this story. This is one of the major American short stories, and obviously he's an avid reader as well. But yeah, it's basically written by Flannery O'Connor, and this is just a little write-up that Tom Waits' library did about the story, which is quite helpful. It says, in the title story, a grandmother, her son and daughter-in-law and their 3 children are on a car journey. They encounter an escaped criminal called the Misfit and his 2 killers, Hiram and Bobby Lee. The family is casually wiped out by them when the grandmother recognises the Misfit from his wanted poster. The hallucinating grandmother murmurs, "Why, you're one of my babies. You're one of my children." The Misfit shoots her in the head and says she would have been a good woman if it had been somewhere there to shoot her every minute of her life. And that's from A Good Man is Hard to Find. A very weird story. Like when I read it, it was kind of in a classic American literature tales, and you read it, you're like, fuck, this is crazy. Like this is a real deranged, brilliant piece of literature, definitely worth singing out. But yeah, for me as well, in the same way we're doing grand statements here, me saying The Part You Throw Away is one of Waits' worst songs, I have to say that the solo in this song by Ara Ardison is one of the best in the entire Waits catalogue. I cannot get over the instrumental solo on this. It's beautiful, it's joyous, it rips and tears, it sets up little platforms for itself and just hops on and off and just plays. And when the solo comes in, and when Waits' vocals are out of the mix, so you've kind of got this solo lead to focus on, you realise that there's been this omnipresent hum of organs. But it's so lovely and warm and insulating. It doesn't feel overbearing like a lot of Alice can, or even Starving in the Belly, where it kind of has that kind of clog over your head. It's just a wonderful. But seriously, heaping praise on Ara Ardison. I just love the the ending to this song. This song's quite a long song, but Tom isn't singing that much. There's a really long solo, and then Tom comes in after, and
his voice is great.
His voice sounds some of the best he's ever sounded on this one. Trumpet is just gorgeous, as I've said ad nauseum. No one remembers his war. No one remembers his name. No one even remembers the combat that he fought within. Because I guess, placing this in 1837, kind of when it would have been gone down, there would have been sort of minor African, on the continental scuffles that aren't like a World War One or a Boer War, are they? They're kind of, who knows about these kind of other ones, these kind of minor skirmishes. And, lyrics as well that you're kind of wanting to put hope into, like you were saying, but they aren't. He is just saying my favourite colour is red, but it feels like there should be a kind of, and then they went home happily ever after. But we're not getting that. But this song is just, it really is one of my favourites. Like I just love this melody. I return to it over and over. I'm always singing it to myself. That, and I wish I was in New Orleans, and my current singing as I ride my bike around Oxford songs. And this is a great end to a slight misstep, but overall a very, very good album.
Perhaps we should do a second Spotify playlist, and we should have mentioned that earlier. We do have a playlist where. Is
anyone still checking that?
I think a couple of people. We've had a little bit of a correspondence about it, but I haven't been plugging it enough.
Right.
It's the Tom Waits podcast playlist. It's just on Spotify, and we do our favourite songs, and we put them on there every week. And this is the part of the show where we talk about our favourite songs. This was a difficult one for me because there are kind of 2 or 3 obvious.
We'll start
ones.
least favourite first.
Okay, least favourite for me, it's going to be Woe, just because I can't even remember the lyrics now.
Yeah,
it made such a little impact on me. Like I don't even want to call it bad. I'm just totally indifferent to it. Really.
Yeah, no, I can see it. I mean, you've got to judge songs for me in the context of other songs on the album, so I can't pick Woe because I think Woe is better than The Part You Throw Away, which I think is the worst song on the album and one of Tom's worst ever. And your favourite song, Sam?
My favourite song, for me, I might have to pick All the World Is Green because it is the one that I come back to the most.
Is that just because you play it on guitar, though?
No,
like,
it really,
are we,
it really is the one that...
You're saying it's better than Another Man's Vine, really?
Another Man's Vine, for me, it's great within the album, but I don't really seek it out. I don't seek out that sort of...
But you seek out the plot of All the World Is Green. Go play your chords.
I don't know, like, I might have to, like...
Sorry, you are allowed to make your decision.
No, I'll be looking down the list. It might have to be Knife Chase.
Chase?
Just because it's so fun. And because I've seen it on YouTube. So many people saying it's the worst song on the album.
Oh, no, they're wrong.
I'm going to pick Knife Chase.
Okay. Another Man's Vine, obviously. But, I mean, could have gone Misery. Could have gone Good Man Is Hard to Find. Could have gone Starving in the Belly of the Whale. Yeah.
Belly of the Whale. I love the guitar in that so much.
It's but and that and Sam, where do you stand before we get into our final segment on the whole Alice Blood Money divide? What is your favourite?
See, I thought I was going to be like wonderfully contrarian because I know your opinion on the matter. I know you're a big Alice fan, and I thought like, well, historically I've never really sought out Alice. Like I got it on vinyl before I got Blood Money on vinyl, and I've had it longer and just not really sat down with it as much as I have say Small Change or Real Gone or Mule Variations. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to come back to Blood Money and I'm going to prove that despite not having the same songwriting calibre, it's going to be a more enjoyable experience and a real, just a thrill ride compared to the very sort of inward nature of Alice. And unfortunately, I feel like after the first few tracks, after you come past probably Knife Chase, you get Lullaby, which did okay, and then Starving in the Belly of the Whale brings it back up briefly, and then the album just kind of loses momentum for me, and it feels very disjointed, and the quality is not spread out further, and you literally could have just swapped Starving and Lullaby around, and it would be a perfect run then. And it just feels like the last few songs. I mean, I'm not knocking A Good Man's Heart.
No, I know what you mean, but because it closes it gives it a different.
And Alice, especially seeing as how
Alice.
the detail we went into on Alice, and just looking at the songs within the wider context of like who Tom was portraying and the ideas he's spinning, and the imagery is just so like it's more romantic in a less romantic album. And it just embodied this real sense of time, place, and emotion. And Blood Money feels a bit more scattershot than that. Like if you don't know about Wojciech, you wouldn't get any of these sort of theatrical sensibilities of this. Whereas I feel Alice really is both a better album and appeals to its play better.
Yeah.
Though I would say Black Ride is probably the best in terms of its play.
Interesting.
But yeah, you're definitely more of an Alice man.
I am, yeah, always have been. Less so now. I definitely see the worth in Blood Money far more, and I think there are some of the best songs Tom's ever written are on this album. There's some terrific material, but onward and upward, and obviously we are going to go on to Real Gone in 2 weeks, but now we're also on Real Gone.
Real Gone, yes.
Slightly different spelling. This is Sam's segment where we discuss Waits' acting, and we've kind of been running out of roles really, but it was fun to realise that we
like a bad Greg's. Yeah.
Yes, it was fun to realise that we had missed quite a fairly juicy film, if not role, for Waits. 7 Psychopaths, Sam.
Well, I guess it all began back when I was 17. I didn't miss some time. I was a little wet behind the ears back then. I don't mind admitting it. I was burglarizing a house of this judge down in Delacroix, and let me tell you something, don't never burglarize a house of no judge down in Delacroix. So when I went down into his basement, you know what I found down there? I found the corpses of 2 Negro girls down there. And I found a half-alive another Negro girl, chained right along with him.
Yeah, this is the 2012 film by Martin MacDonagh. It's his second screenplay. He wrote the kind of seminal dark comedy In Bruges, and he's also the brother of John Michael MacDonagh, who did the best film of 2014, which is Calvary.
Oh, really?
So no pressure on this difficult second album of a movie on having to live up to my standards. But what I think I'll say is, it's well worth the watch. Let's just get that out of the way now, and I can see how it'll be very appealing, very strongly to a certain kind of meta viewer. It's one of those films that does spend a little too much time trying to be more clever than it is without really living up to it.
Yeah.
But if honestly that's the worst thing I can say about the film as a whole, especially for its first half, it's very strong indeed. The title itself is kind of one of those Clockwork Orange things where the title is the name of another work, book or film or play within the world of the story. So Colin Farrell's character is trying to write a screenplay called 7 Psychopaths. And he's essentially just trying to build the screenplay, all whilst he gets drawn into a bit of a farce, really. The main action concerns Christopher Walken and Sam Rockwell's characters, like in a dog napping business, where they return stolen dogs for awards, only that they actually steal the dog of a psychotic gangster played by Woody Harrelson, and then the film just spins more out of control there and gets weirder and weirder for me. The whole thing also has this very meta and self-aware feel that, kind of like a Shane Black thing. And it's got, these sort of black comedy action fusion films like Lock, Stock. It knows what those audiences expect in terms of these films, and it pokes fun at those tropes. And Farrell's character spends a lot of the time film pontificating about how he doesn't want a violent film, and MacDonagh kind of pulls the rug out of your feet from under this and will still do the violence at the end anyway, so I'm not sure if it commits to its own ideals or if it's just done for a comedic effect. But the writing itself is the thing that has to be praised the most. There's lots of naturalistic dialogues, all the characters are nice and quippy, make you feel like you're having a good time. There's an obvious sort of Tarantino influence there, but there's never a dull moment on screen, but there towards the end especially there is something kind of lackey. But half an hour in exactly, we meet Tom playing the aptly named Zachariah, which is another great Tom Waits name, And basically, Sam Rockwell's character, in a bid to help Farrell write his script, puts out an ad in the paper inviting anyone to come in and tell their story of psychopathy to him at his home address. So Waits is just sat, like the aging Tom Waits now, is sat energetically, enigmatically, and unpredictably as ever on Farrell's garden wall, stroking a rabbit. And he just comes inside and starts telling the story that ends up in this sort of delightfully dark, natural-born killer's territory, where Waits and his wife essentially went around the country doing, as Waits puts it, serial killer stuff. And as we see in several flashbacks, Waits' character is actually a bit more fragile and complex than what we'd assume. He's not as scary as like they cast Tom Waits to give him that sense of menace, but maybe he's not that. We see that maybe he's more of a tag along that just happens to be helplessly in love with a woman who happens to be a serial killer.
Aren't they serial killers though?
No, there is someone like that.
Oh, okay.
in the movie. They do talk about that. But it brings into the question, who is more of a psychopath, and the film relishes in this. Like, is Zachariah or his wife the true psychopath? Who's more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? And the film goes so far as to actually begin numbering the psychopaths with little notes on screen, psychopath 1, and these could be fictitious ones Colin Farrell's talking about, or real ones on screen, and it kind of blurs the lines. Is Colin Farrell's character possibly even writing some of these characters into existence in a sort of odd Andy Kaufman adaptation way? But the film never actually goes out to call out the seventh psychopath, and the fact that every single character is a little bit warped and a little bit demented makes you have to go back and to kind of question everything, and it gives the film a bit more of an energy to it on a second view.
Right.
But all in all, it's not in Bruges, it's not Calvary. It's an impressive film. You just feel like you can't quite put your finger on it, but there's just a little bit of something that stops it from being effortlessly perfect. And it does feel a little bit flawed in some areas. Like, there's not much in terms of plot to sort of grasp onto, and you can get kind of a bit bored of the dog stuff. But when it's doing the psychopath stuff, it's doing it really well. And Tom is as great as ever. Like, he doesn't do films for like 5 years, and then he does a role. It's like, oh, brilliant, love it. He's there on screen for possibly 10, 15 minutes at most, but every second he is there, you're just enraptured with him. And there's a moment of acting that he does is pretty stellar for him. Actually, it really quite surprised me in a good way. In The Force Awakens, there's a moment when I can't even mention it because of spoilers, but Harrison Ford's character calls out another character's name, and he does it with such like sort of shocking emotion that like it really kind of grabs you. And Tom Waits is like witnessing his wife murdering someone, and he just goes, "Maggie!" like that, and you feel like, oh no, oh, Maggie's really broken his heart, and like this little timid Waits character runs off. It's really sad, it really is. Walken's great in it, Rockwell's great, Woody Harrelson's good. That actress whose name I can never pronounce, Olga Kurylenko, she's in it a little bit. It's one of those roles where it's like, I don't know why her and Tom Waits are even really on the poster. They're not in it that long, but it's fun. It really is. And like you say, we probably should have done this one a little earlier, really, when we weren't so pressed for time. But I really would recommend it. I'd give it an arbitrary 7. The thing is, with some films that are a 7 out of 10, you still don't really notice the flaws. You just take them at face value. Whereas, especially in how metatextual and it is, and it kind of throws you out of the movie at several points, and you have to come back to it from a more objective angle each time. It might stop itself from achieving kind of true greatness because you're kind of aware of the artifice and the process of what's going on, and it kind of doesn't live up to that.
Well, good.
All in all.
Yeah, no, that's 7 Psychopaths, and thank you again, Sam. And everyone should definitely check that out. But that wraps us up. Again, as I said, we will be back for Real Gone, the actual Real Gone.
Oh my god!
2004's Real Gone, which is like our first kind of like, obviously Mule Variations came out, and then Alice and Blood Money, but those were kind of him dipping back in the well. So this is our kind of next natural progression from Mule Variations into the pianoless Real Gone, I believe. So that's going to be really exciting. Also, I wanted to say again, please check out the shop if you can. Tom Waits shop, just pick up stickers or whatever, just to help support us bandwidth costs. Some people have bought some stuff, which is
reviews on iTunes.
Reviews on iTunes as well would be really, really appreciated. Obviously, at TomWaitsPodcast on the Twitter, get us on the Gmail as well, TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com. Our YouTube as well. Obviously, have that the bonus episode where we talk about the VH1 storytellers. Check that out. It's been responded to quite well. People seem to be enjoying it. It's got some good viewership. It's only been up there for a couple of days at this point of recording. But that about sums it up, really. And I just want to say thanks again to everyone for listening. We really, really appreciate it. I can't believe how deep we are into the Mythos now. We've probably done over 250 songs, something like that, off the top of my head.
Easily.
Yeah. So it's been it's been a wilder ride than anything Spidey could ever have imagined. So I just want to say thank you again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. See you then.
Right, thank you. Cool. Thanks. Bye. Thank you. Ta-ra.
It's interesting because you have a boy, right?
Yes, I do.
So you know what cribbing is, right?
Well, no.
Cribbing? Okay, for those of you who have kids, when you have a crib and you have a child in the crib, you have cribbing, and they eat the wood around the edge of the crib.
Well, they actually are teething on the wooden rails. Yeah.
But they're actually eating into the wood itself. And in fact, my boy ate straight through the wood. Just destroyed the resale value.